Let's say we've got a chicken sandwich, a burger, and a pizza.
I'm glad you came over tonight. Me too.
I wouldn't call it a leadership role.
Another table orders waffles and pancakes.
In the Karen Reed case in week 3, is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts trying to pretend like Michael Proctor never existed?
What do a hamburger, chicken sandwich, and pizza have to do with the Karen Reed case? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And Andrew, it sounds like there's been a lot of nonsense going on since I've been gone.
Well, the pizza, the hamburger, and the chicken sandwich were actually brought up by an expert in this case. What does that tell us? I mean, week 3 was crazy. It was a return to some of the old characters, Yuri Bukhenik, figuring out when and where they found pieces of tail light. And the testimony really, I don't think it went in well for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I think they stumbled a little bit more on week 3. I don't know what our viewers will think, but let us know down in the comments, as we go through this. One of the very first witnesses in week 3 was Lieutenant Paul Gallagher. Despite being the highest ranking Canton police officer on the scene at 34 Fairview Road on January 29th, 2022, and overseeing an excavation in the snow with the famous now leaf blower, never saw John O'Keefe's hat. Notably, no pieces of taillight were found that day, and he never did more than a cursory scan of the first floor of 34 Fairview.
You did not recover or see a hat, a man's hat?
No, sir.
Black
no.
in color, baseball style hat?
No hat. No, sir.
You did not see or recover a man's shoe?
No, sir.
And you said you searched for the area in that 50 square foot area by removing materials, moving the snow, getting down to all the way down to the lawn.
Yes.
Okay. You did not see a single piece of bright red plastic taillight material either, did you?
No, sir. Not in that area.
As a matter of fact, you didn't see 46 pieces of taillight material, either clear or bright red plastic, in any part of the area that you searched.
No, the only thing we discovered was the blood sampling in the glass. That is correct.
Speaking of the glass, that's a good segue. You found that piece of broken drinking glass that you brought in and showed the jurors yesterday, correct?
That's correct.
Did you search the house at all to determine whether or not there was any matching glass in the home?
No, I did not.
You testified yesterday that you looked around, when you were in the house. This is the second time you're at the location, so you went back with Sergeant Lenk. I want to orient you to that time. That's when you actually entered the home for the first time of Brian Albert. Was that right?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And you indicated that you did look around the family room, the kitchen, and you didn't see any signs of a struggle or anything like that?
No, sir.
Now, that was Lieutenant Paul Gallagher. He was the highest ranking Canton Police Department officer on the scene on January 29th of 2022. He said, well, it wasn't a crime scene. Of course, they had crime scene tape up. And if that piques your curiosity and you missed our midweek episode, I will put a link to that midweek episode down in the details and leave Mr. Gallagher out of more comment on this edition, because it was a head scratcher, to say the least. Now, Nick Garino came back on the stand and went through 52 calls by Karen Reed attempting to contact John O'Keefe overnight on the 29th. Here are just a few of them. We're not going to play them all, plus one of a number of voicemails.
At 1:10:17 a.m., the defendant calls John. Voicemail number 5 is left with voice.
Ms. Gilman?
Ms. Gilman.
Yes, 1 in the morning, I'm with your niece and nephew. You're
At 1:10:44 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 1:12:18 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 1:12:46 a.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. 1:13 a.m., the defendant calls John. Not answered.
So now we have all of those calls. She was calling him all night, a total of 52 times. I think the real question is, these were played by the prosecution as part of their case. And I think the reason Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, played them was, he's trying to show, that she was angry at John and therefore, she had a motive to murder him. But my question is, why would she be, if she did, in fact, bring an end to his life, why was she trying to call him 52 times?
Yeah, if she had knowingly done something, that's exactly where my thoughts went to, because it's like, if you think that she has motive to kill him and went out of her way to try to kill him, so many K words, YouTube's going to get mad at us, but she wouldn't be, and like you see there, it's just like calling voicemail and then it's like 2 minutes calling again. If she had any idea that she had done something to harm him, she would, if anything, would be trying to play it cool and not be incriminating herself by calling a million times and leaving pissed off voicemails.
I'm going to ask our commenters to sort this one out. Do you think that the playing of all of those calls that were attempted and also the playing of more than just the one voicemail that we played, do you think that helps her or hurts her? Why did Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan play them? Just because they were played in the first trial? So now, as I said in the intro, it seems to me that it's fairly obvious that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is just trying to, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil with respect to Michael Proctor. We all know that the man was dishonorably discharged, and they really, really, really backed away from even wanting to admit that he was alive on the planet. And the first example of this was on day 11 of the trial. Massachusetts State Police Trooper Connor Keefe came on the stand. He made for a very reluctant witness to talk about not only Trooper Proctor, but anything else.
Michael Proctor was the lead investigator for the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, was he not?
Yes.
If somebody asked within your unit while this case was going on, whose case is it or who has that case, your answer would have been Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
The two of you have worked cases together in the past, correct?
A few.
You've worked on this case with Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, within your work on this case, you actually partnered with him for certain assignments within the case, did you not?
You'll have to be more specific.
You know that old saying, be careful what you wish for? Because you shouldn't say that to defense attorney Alan Jackson. Be more specific, because that's exactly what he did. And he noted that Trooper Keefe was asked about a witness interview, and Trooper Keefe didn't remember doing it before he did remember doing it.
On October 21 of 2022, you and Michael Proctor interviewed Sarah Levinson together, correct?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay, Trooper, you do not remember interviewing Sarah Levinson on October 21 of 2022 at 12:20 p.m. at the Norfolk DA's office. Is that your current testimony?
Yes.
Okay. If you saw a copy of that report, would that refresh your memory?
To an extent.
Maybe the testimony will be like the New England weather and it'll change.
I've placed a document in front of you. I would just ask you to read that silently to yourself. Look up at me when you're done. Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not you participated in an interview of Sarah Levinson with Michael Proctor on October 21st of 2022?
Yes, I don't recall the specifics, but...
So when you say yes, is it your current testimony that your memory is refreshed that you were actually there?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
the two of you would have participated in that interview together, correct?
Yes.
But you did not write the report, correct?
No, I did not.
Michael Proctor wrote the report, correct?
Yes, he did.
He was the lead investigator writing the report, correct?
Yes, he wrote this report.
He chose the language to use in that report, correct?
I did not have any input on how he wrote this report.
Right. You had no input. You weren't standing over him while he was typing it, correct?
Correct.
Now, other examples of, and actually, let me take that back from you if you don't mind. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
So the thing that kind of surprised me about this witness, not only was he a terrible witness for the Commonwealth, but also, as we saw in week 2, many questions were asked about Kerry Roberts and Jennifer McCabe, and they had met with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office a number of times, and they had been prepared carefully. I guess, what can I say? This witness just wasn't coached. Prepared to
It was
testify.
so bad. That was so painful to watch. And especially because you have so many people who are so firm on their memory, it seems like such a stark contrast. And if anything, I don't know, something about that interaction kind of is unsettling because it's like, was he there? Was he not there at this point? Obviously, they're saying that he was. Now he's saying that he was. But how do you just completely forget that? I've said before, when you're working with people and you're seeing so many different people every time, like a million times a day, things kind of get mixed up. But in an investigation like this with so many issues, this does not look good.
Well, yeah, and that the whole world is watching the trial. We have a new metric for measuring that coming up a little bit later in this episode, but the whole world is watching. And wouldn't you remember something that's pretty notable, like an interview like that with a key witness? So it just kind of left me wondering, I guess they pick and choose which witnesses they're going to prepare. Now, that was on trial day 11. Now, do you still remember the chicken sandwich, the pizza, and the burger?
Unfortunately.
Well, that came during testimony by a digital forensics examiner by the name of Jessica Hyde, who testified in the first trial. She teaches at George Mason University, which Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan mixed up with Georgetown University, but she teaches at George Mason University. She was hired by the prosecutors to testify that the search "Haas Long to Die in the Cold" was made at 6:24 a.m. and not 2:27, as originally found in Jennifer McCabe's phone. But she had a really bizarre answer to a question as to whether that search was deleted. So remember this. The question is there evidence that the search was deleted in Jennifer McCabe's phone?
When that database stores data, it has 2 versions. The most recent version and the version in use here uses what's called a write-ahead log. So before data is committed, it is written to a write-ahead log. I'll kind of explain it. So let's say we're in a restaurant and we're sitting at a table and we're ordering food. Our table is the table. Data is going to come to the table, and that's going to be our food. So when we order food, let's say we've got a chicken sandwich, a burger, and a pizza coming to the table. The chicken sandwich, the burger, and the pizza, the kitchen puts it in the warming area. It's the write-ahead log. The server grabs it from there. It's where data sits before it goes to the table, just like your food goes to that serving station before your server brings it to your table. Server brings it to the table. That table's got its burger, its chicken, and its pizza. Another table orders waffles and pancakes. They think it's breakfast. The waffles and pancakes are made by the kitchen. They're put on the serving area. Waitress comes over. This pizza has pepperoni. I don't eat pepperoni. Can you send it back? Waitress picks up that pepperoni and sends it back. That's a deletion. Pepperoni pizza was just removed from the table, right? We're deleting it. We said it's not what we wanted. The waitress is removing it. She brings it back to that serving area. At that moment, that serving area has the deleted pizza, but also the waffles and pancakes that are waiting to go out to the table. That's how a write-ahead log works. Any changes that are happening sit in the write-ahead log until the database is closed, and then when it's reopened, all those changes are made.
Okay. I think I know what she was trying to say. You know, the iPhone or smartphone records stuff, but things can be added and deleted. Now, I think Jennifer McCabe's Haas Long to Die in the Snow was like the pizza that was deleted. I don't know. Did you get anything out of that?
You know, I was trying to use my background in tech to try to understand exactly what she was saying, and I have a concept of an idea of what she was trying to say. In my head, I'm just, as I'm listening to her, I'm just thinking that the jury in no universe is really following along with this, and I can't even imagine what it's like to be sitting there. I don't know them, but I was just thinking that this does not look good from a juror standpoint. But in how you were saying, comparing the pizza to the search being deleted, that was my same interpretation. It didn't seem promising as to not saying that it didn't come out at a certain time or not. It did sound like she was saying it existed and then it went away. That was my interpretation.
It sounded like a really analog explanation for a digital phenomenon. It didn't, I don't know. I wonder whether back in the jury room when the time comes, not now, I wonder if when they get back in the jury room, they will actually spend any time at all trying to figure this one out, or whether they'll just say, forget it. I wonder.
I wish if she was going to be talking about databases, you know, ma'am, you could have used the library as a explanation, books, the food, the hot dog. Why are we specifying I loved the, like, saying like a hamburger, chicken sandwich, and a pizza. It's like the other table order is like waffles and whatever. They think it's breakfast. I'm like, thank you, ma'am. Like, we needed that. It's like that differentiation, that pointing out that the meals are different. It was just kind of all over the place, it seemed.
It was an odd moment. But now let's get to the heart of her testimony. This is why Jessica Hyde was called to be a witness for the Commonwealth. The heart of her testimony was the claim that the infamous Haas Long to Die in the Cold was actually made at 6:24 and not 2:27 as it showed up.
And do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty the time when that search was made?
Yes, Your Honor.
To a reasonable degree of certainty, I can say that Haas Long to Die in Cold was searched at approximately 6:24 a.m.
You know, a lot of people are saying that Hank Brennan is trying to make the trial a little bit more efficient than the first time, so I really didn't understand why they brought her in, because Ian Whiffen had covered most of the points that she made in week 2. So I don't know. On cross-examination from Robert Alessi, her testimony was less than forthcoming, getting tangled up in exact times and even a typo in her report.
So we're just talking about 2 times, 2:27:40 and then 6:23. Is that correct?
So you are only talking then about the one that we're also talking about 6:24 a.m.
Okay, so we
Eastern time for clarity, because some of these records are in UTC, some are in local.
Fair enough. So you've got 2:27:40, you've got 6:23, and you got 6:24 that you were looking at, correct?
There are other timestamps that exist in the realm of what I was looking at, but those ones, correct, are the ones that are relevant in this report.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about.
Okay,
we're just talking about this report.
Yes.
And so if you look under relevant findings, at the very bottom paragraph, you say, second sentence, a Google search for how long to die cold at approximately 11:23 a.m. and then Haas Long TIDIE in cold took place at 11:24.
That is in UTC. I apologize for not having the time stamp format there, but that is the UTC time. The UTC time equivalent in Eastern local time would be 6:23 and 6:24.
So to be clear, in your report, you wrote 11:23 a.m. and 11:24, and you didn't put UTC next
correct.
to it, did
They
you?
should. You are correct. That should say UTC. That is a typo.
And there's a significant difference between 11:23 and 2:27:40, correct?
1123 is UTC, so its equivalent in Eastern Time would be 623. The artifact of 227 is already in local time, so that is in Eastern Time. So what we would be comparing is 227 and 623 and 624 to be appropriate. They're taking into account the data storage and which ones are in UTC and which ones are in local time.
Okay.
If I'm the jury, my brain is all mixed up from all these numbers already, and that help for the defense helps discredit her a little bit. I think if you're not paying close attention as a jury member right there, I think that's all over the place.
Robert Alessi is a brilliant man. He really argues well, and I think it's a question of whether she could follow him, and she's the professor. Again, it was not so clear when viewed by, she said she used a bunch of different tools to try and figure out whether this infamous search was done at 227 or 624. And it wasn't very clear when viewed by some of these different tools, really when the search was made. Tell me if there's some doubt here.
You go down to line 20 and you testified, we cannot tell by this particular artifact what time that search occurred. Did
Absolutely.
I read that correctly?
It's specifically pertaining to that particular artifact that in browser state DB that does not tell us what time a search occurred. That is correct.
Right. So you stated, and it was your statement then, we cannot tell by this particular artifact what time that search occurred, correct?
That particular artifact.
Okay. All right. So, I think, again, I'll go back to what I said before. I don't understand entirely why they had this witness when Ian Whiffen had made many, not all of the same points, although, he was a little bit wishy-washy on some of the statements that he made. And when a couple of flaws were pointed out in his reasoning in his report, he said, I take a holistic view. Which our commenters, were kind of split on that. A lot of them said, well, that's a legitimate claim. But I still maintain that, I respect the holistic view in medicine and elsewhere. But, engineering is ones and zeros. It's not like, well, it could be this or it could be that.
Yeah, exactly that. It's either one way or it isn't.
So then we come to Yuri Bukhenik. And tell me if my thesis is right or wrong. People tell me I'm wrong all the time, so it's okay. But tell me if I'm right or wrong, that it seems like the Commonwealth just wants to pretend that Michael Proctor never walked the face of the earth, much less wore a Massachusetts state police uniform. Yuri Bukhenik, of course, was Proctor's supervisor, Proctor being the lead investigator in the case. Yuri Bukhenik started out by uncovering some pieces of red taillight on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road, not on January 29th, but a few days later on February 3rd of 2022.
Do you know where, in relation to the fire hydrant or the flagpole, this item was recovered?
First of all, how can a jury see anything? I mean, it's a bunch of leaves and snow, and it's you can't see anything. That could be my front yard, except there's no weeds.
No bunnies.
It was in the general vicinity between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. The area we were excavating was approximately 40 to 50 square feet in area.
Mr. Brennan, can that be expanded, please?
Thank you, Judge Cannone.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is the item?
Notice that all of the pieces of taillight that we've seen and that we're going to see are on top of snow. None of them even has a little bit of snow on top of them. That's kind of something to keep in your mind.
And that you recovered on top of that leaf?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. If I could next show Exhibit 90, which is P492, 7692. Before we close up, sir, is that the fire hydrant that is at the corner of 34 Fairview Road?
Yes, it is.
Could we close up, please, on that? Why is there a ruler on the ground?
The ruler is utilized to help put the item to scale.
Okay. All right. So backing up, but in the order in which Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan chose to present his case, Yuri Bukhenik recalled going to Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton, Massachusetts on January 29, 2022, and observing injuries to John O'Keefe, including an injury to the back of the head with bleeding.
There was also a tiny cut, laceration to the eyelid area.
You're pointing to your right eye. Could you be specific, please?
Also on the left nostril, there was a very small laceration there. Both were not actively bleeding. There were a series of cuts and bruises to the right arm, which extended from approximately mid forearm up to the mid tricep area of Mr. O'Keefe, and they were concentrated on the exterior of the arm.
Okay, then Brennan, again going backwards, but he chose this order, had Bukhenik narrate video of Karen Reed with John O'Keefe at the C.J. McCarthy's bar on January 28th, claiming it showed Ms. Reed accepting 7 drinks. Objection sustained, but that's what he said. Here is Ms. Reed arriving at the bar with her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, waiting for her.
Okay, let's start with the first video at 9:03, please.
John's sitting there with the light colored top. Here she comes in the bar right there. That's her entering.
Can you stop it there? Do you recognize who's in that video?
Yes.
From left to right of people that you recognize and identify clothing they might be wearing?
From left to right, it'll be Mr. John O'Keefe wearing the gray sweatshirt that was displayed earlier, and then the defendant, who he is trying to embrace with one arm there. I do not know who the other individuals are in the shot.
All right, so that went on and on and on, and he showed the whole thing. We're not going to show the whole thing because it does go on for quite some time. She's taking drinks, and they're making drinks, and I don't know why. If I missed it, I missed it. Tell me down below. But I would have thought that the best evidence would be the receipt for that evening. But so we had to sit there while we were, being told that she was getting drinks in a cylindrical container.
Cylindrical is crazy.
Bukhenik was an extremely reluctant witness on cross-examination. I mean, he was very forthcoming and rehearsed and smooth and polished as long as it was Hank Brennan asking him questions. When Hank Brennan sat down and the defense attorney, Alan Jackson, got up, totally different story. He fought with him, didn't want to answer questions. At one time, Judge Cannone even, had to tell, after another sidebar, had to tell Yuri Bukhenik, hey, answer the questions. But he was very reluctant on cross-examination. He backed away from acknowledging Michael Proctor's role as the lead investigator, and in fact, refused to acknowledge that Proctor had a leadership role.
Would you agree with me that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator as well as the case agent in charge of this case?
He was assigned as the case officer for the case.
In that position, given the fact that it was his assignment, would you agree with me that he had a leadership role insofar as the investigation of the case was concerned?
I wouldn't call it a leadership role. It's more of a facilitator, liaison between the DA's personnel within the office and the state police. He also helps facilitate any missions, outstanding tasks that need to be completed.
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
He did, yes, that would be myself.
That would be you.
Yes.
Every case has some lead trooper in your unit, correct? Every case is assigned to someone to sort of be in charge and lead the charge of the investigation. Is that right?
Every case has a case officer that manages the investigation.
Right. And managing the investigation doesn't mean just, sort of typing up schedules. It means actually managing the investigation, like deciding what search warrants are going to be written in certain circumstances. That's one example, correct?
They're responsible for writing and authoring those search warrants. Sometimes the recommendation, suggestion, or leadership comes from the supervisors or the DA staff, where their experience might dictate otherwise.
And sometimes it comes from the lead case agent himself or herself, correct?
At times, yes.
Every team, even back when you were in the military, you were on many, many teams in the Marine Corps, correct?
I'm sorry, you were speaking, facing away from me. I couldn't hear you.
Every team, including back in the time you were in the military, back in the time you were in the Marine Corps, every team has multiple individuals involved in that team, correct? That's the whole point of a team, multiple people, correct?
I would agree with you that a team consists of more than one person. Yes.
And there has to be some sort of echelon of leadership on that team, correct? Everybody's not just an equal, co-equal, correct?
We might have different duties, responsibilities, but some teams have equal rank. Yeah.
But there's going to be a team leader, right? That's a military phrase, team leader.
Yes, there is a team leader in the Marine Corps, in the rifle platoon, but not every team has a leader.
He just does not want to admit that Proctor was the lead investigator.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, it's just random to just not want. If he's saying that there's no leader, that's almost like admitting to not having a chain of custody, is the way that I perceive that. It doesn't help him, I don't think, to say that not every team has a leader. I can seldom think of scenarios where a successful team wouldn't have a leader. Who are you reporting into? Who is holding you accountable?
This was only 2 witnesses on week 3. This is only 2 witnesses on week 3. They just wanted to back away from acknowledging that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator. So if Mr. Bukhenik or Mr. Brennan or anybody, I know somebody in the DA's office watches this. So here's something for you. Here's something you should take a look at. We're back to the future. This is something that's on the Department of State Police for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Remember this? This is the trial board finding from back on Wednesday, March 19th. Trooper Proctor, on various dates between January 29th, 2022 and August 17th, 2022, did fail to conform to the work standards established for the member's rank, title, or position, and or did fail to take appropriate action on the occasion of a crime, disorder, or other condition deserving state police attention. This occurred when Trooper Proctor, while assigned as the lead investigator, okay, and here it is again. I highlighted it so I don't have to read over again. But Trooper Proctor, while assigned as the lead investigator, so they kind of want to walk away from Mr. Proctor's, that's my perception. They kind of want to walk away from Mr. Proctor's involvement in this case. But there it is. I mean, he was, in fact, without any doubt, beyond all doubt, the lead investigator in this case. And so to suggest otherwise, it's just, I'll use the word disingenuous for them to sit there and say, oh, well, back up. And, Mr. Proctor was really very reluctant to even admit anything other than his name. So he was clearly, over prepared, we'll say, for this. And
it does come off, like you said, disingenuous. It would be better, I think, and this is just speculation, but from the jury standpoint, to just own it and accept it and just, it's like they tried to confront, it's like how they tried to confront Proctor's texts head on and they didn't work in the last trial. It's just like a part of me is like, oh, they should just be confronting the whole Proctor situation head on, but that historically hasn't gone great for them either. So I can understand that aspect of it, but it just looks like they're shady and trying to hide something by almost like pretending like this guy wasn't involved at all.
And this is just one example of how difficult of a witness that Mr. Bukhenik was. And if you're an aspiring young attorney trying to learn how to do cross-examination, this is a really good example because this guy was tough. He didn't want to answer anything. And another example of that was, as defense attorney Alan Jackson pointed out, in fact, at one point, investigators did think of a physical altercation as one possibility in John O'Keefe's death, but Bukhenik was very reluctant to say anything, recounting how little, if anything, was done to explore that possibility.
What steps did you take at that moment to determine whether or not anybody in the house may have been involved in that physical altercation that you thought was a possibility?
That's a compound question. I have to answer it separately.
Answer it however you want to. It's an open-ended question, which is unlike me. What steps did you take to, at that moment, to determine whether or not anybody in the house could have been involved in that possible physical altercation that you just described?
We interviewed the homeowner and 2 witnesses that were in that house.
You never went into the house, did you? On January 29th, at least.
I personally did not go in the house.
You did not secure that house or remove the occupants, did you?
Which day?
January 29th. I'm talking about the morning of January 29th.
I did not know.
You did not secure the yard as a crime scene, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't conduct any search at that house?
No, I did not.
You didn't take any photographs of the interior of that house?
I did not.
You didn't ask a forensic criminalist to join you and process the house, correct?
That is correct.
You didn't set up a crime scene log to determine who is coming in and going out of the potential crime scene?
I did not.
No one actually documented the crime scene by taking contextual photographs and then close-up photographs, etc., during those early morning hours, correct?
I cannot speak to that. I was not there.
So the answer is you didn't do that, and you didn't cause that to be done.
I did not do that.
You know, and this went on for an entire afternoon on Thursday of week 3, that he just, didn't want to answer questions. As I said, at one point, Judge Cannone had to actually instruct him to answer the question. And it continued also for the entirety of Friday morning in the last week. And it just, I don't know whether a jury, goes to sleep or whether they're astonished by the fact that here's a witness in the Commonwealth's case in chief that just is fighting back and not wanting to answer anything. Putting up a little bit of resistance to the defense attorney is understandable, but just outright trying to, not answer anything at all and fight with him, that's another whole thing. But anyhow, the week came almost to an end, though, when they played, by my count, not quite an hour of texts between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed. Remember that from the first trial and I want our viewers to comment and let us know, did this help either side? Lainey, I think you have the texts between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed.
I unfortunately do.
Do you like me? Yes, clearly. Come over to my house. When? When works for you? Whoever, whenever. When works for you? I asked you first. I think you're messing with me. I'm glad you came over tonight. Me too. Ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You look great tonight. I don't know. What do you want? You always do. Yeesh, really? Why? I look great? You're full of it. I think you're hot. I always have thought that. Just have not revealed my thoughts. I'm hot for the hillside. Low comps. Knock it off. You're hot, period. Are you glad you walked me out? Yes. Are you? Deaf. Yes. Are you going home tonight or tomorrow a.m.? We kissed, right? Is this a trick question? I don't know when I'm going home. I am selling my house. What a trick question. Are you moving to Canton? I am following your lead with this.
Well, if you kissed somebody, wouldn't you remember it? Now, here's my question. This was part of Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan's case in chief, all right? So purportedly, there's some reason for it, right? I mean, you don't want to waste time with a jury and a judge who I think appears to have had enough of both sides, really, in trial two. You don't want to be messing around by putting in evidence that's a waste of time. So does this really help the Commonwealth's case? I mean, all right, so Karen Reed and Brian Higgins had a flirtatious bunch of texts. They sound like 13-year-olds, but delete that, edit that. Does that, I guess they're trying to show motive that, she, had a brief thing with whether it's just texts or more. We don't know. You can read into this whatever you want, but I guess the implication is that Karen Reed was looking around. She wasn't happy in her relationship with John O'Keefe. So that gives her a motivation to want to run the guy over? Really?
I mean, being cringe is not a crime, and being unfaithful is unethical and weird, but it's not motivation to kill someone. I mean, people cheat on each other all the time. I mean, everybody watching this has their one friend who's been dating the same person who's cheated on them like 5 times and they keep getting back together. It's not an uncommon thing. I'm not going to say that people don't. It's if you're at the point where you're even being unfaithful, do you even care about that person enough to have a reason to off them, is my thought, because clearly you had other priorities already. I don't know. That's just how I'm seeing it.
So my question to the viewers is, does this make a difference if you're on the jury? Does this to you impress you as motive enough to make her want to run the guy over, or does it help the other side? And I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't come to a conclusion other than I think the jury woke up because it was salacious. It's like a soap opera. It's something that, it's a distraction, as Ronnie, one of the jurors in case one, would have said about many issues. So I want our commenters to tell us what they made of that. And speaking of our commenters, we have a bunch of commenters on this case.
Yeah, so no one Audie says, I don't think the use of a leaf blower was appropriate, but that is what Gallagher used. At that point, besides revealing blood evidence and broken cocktail glass, I would have expected at least a fragment of 2 of the taillight as well. This assumes, of course, that the taillight fragments were actually present at that time. Just saying. And the whole situation is crazy to me because, I mean, not that much time. Like, I know it was a very snowy, stormy day, but at the same time, I find it hard to believe that all of the glass would have been covered up by snow.
Well, yeah, and in our previous episode, we showed Sergeant Good and Paul Gallagher using the leaf blower to blow the snow away, and in a lot of places, they got right down to the leaves and the grass and everything else. So there's reasonable doubt as to why couldn't they have found, when they ultimately found 46 pieces of taillight, they couldn't even find one that day. That's a little bit fishy. Comment number 4 from Haley Lenore. Gallagher pretending that Proctor wasn't the lead investigator was an absolute joke. And I would contend that the same thing applies to Yuri Bukhenik on the final day of week 3.
JCS 13-7. The defense needed an expert on police evidence protocols as this person is not honest. Bev kept it out. And a lot of people were saying that. I think that this whole thing was it's a little silly that they're not really allowed to point out how things were conducted in a proper way.
Yeah, where one of the lead investigators on day one from the Canton Police Department, Paul Gallagher, said, well, we didn't consider it a crime scene, but there was crime scene tape up there, and there was an unattended death or almost death. John O'Keefe did ultimately pass away that very morning, just hours after he was found. You know, that's not treated as a crime scene. The defense, and I think it is reversible error. I think that the defense did absolutely positively need that FBI expert whose last name was Easter. He was going to testify with respect to proper crime scene handling. I think it's obvious that there were a lot of mistakes made, but I totally disagree with the ruling that just anybody knows what the procedure is, because no, there are procedures for everything, and you know that was a mistake. Number two, hopefully they make a motion to reconsider at the end of the state's case. Given the testimony from Gallagher, where he said he didn't have probable cause to go into the house, he absolutely did not separate witnesses or ask for permission to search the home. Same with Jen testifying that they didn't need to be separated or told they can't talk to each other. A, there was clearly probable cause. B, under exigent circumstances, I would contend they had every right to go into that house where a body is found out on the front lawn. We've talked about this before. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but at the same time, I can't see any judge in the world not granting a search warrant to go into that house where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found dying in the front yard. I don't see it. Makes no sense.
Gimbal 26. This whole investigation was a sham. How the O'Keefe family can listen to this and not be upset that they didn't do a better job blows my mind, even if they believe Karen did it, and even if she did. Look what they've had to go through to try to prove this. For the record, I believe John O'Keefe was not hit by Karen's car for the same reason I know the world is not flat, because I trust science, all branches.
The world's not flat? Really?
I don't know about that. Depends on what side of YouTube you're on.
I think some people on the internet just like to troll comments out of other people by saying they think the world is flat. There can't be a single person in the world that thinks that the world is flat. But then again, you don't know. And again, the whole world is watching this.
The whole flat world.
The whole world. No, see up in the upper left-hand corner, it's a crescent.
I know it looks pretty flat there to me.
The world is it's shaped like a piece of pie. But we have 57 countries now that have commented on this case. So anybody that says the world is not watching needs to take a look at our slide. But we are, I will admit, a small but mighty channel, and if 57 countries are watching ours, that means that it's huge. Now, here's our new metric for doing it.
Oh my God.
By popular demand, only 1 week ago, by popular demand now, both in our comment section and otherwise, you know, people said you're looking at the rest of the world. Why not keep track of the United States? And so I only started doing this 1 week ago in our episode we did 1 week ago, and we have 39 states. We only need 11 more. We only need 11 more to have 50. So Hawaii, we haven't heard from, but we have heard from the four corners of the country: Alaska, California, Florida, and Maine. I'm not going to read the rest, but we have all four, extreme corners. And so let's fill it in. We have 11 more states to go. So
yeah, my concern about Hawaii was correct. Hawaiians, if you're listening right now, we need you to chime in, because if you're paying attention to the Karen Reed case, I'm sorry that you're not on the beach, but hopefully you're not having too much fun. Hopefully you are having too much fun, honestly.
Well, people watch YouTube on the beach, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're from Hawaii watching on the beach, comment down below and let us know.
Or surfing.
Or surfing. AirPods in while you're surfing.
Well, I guess. Yeah, you can. Yeah. All right. I don't know. Anyhow, I don't know what yours is, but my closing thought is this trial is getting good. And with all of the Commonwealth's witnesses trying to back away from Michael Proctor, never having even, set foot on the planet, whether it's flat or round, I think that portends that they might not call him. I don't know. That's not my prediction, but it looks like they're just backing away from him so much They might just pretend he never existed, which is an opportunity for the defense to come right in and call him and make a big deal out of the fact, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you see how shoddy this investigation is? The Commonwealth in its case in chief wouldn't even call in their lead investigator, and he was the lead investigator, whether or not these witnesses, I almost put a pejorative in there, whether or not these witnesses want to admit it or not, he was the lead investigator. See, here's his papers kicking him off the state police force dishonorably. So that's my closing thought. What's yours?
I do. We see Proctor. You say that it's getting good. It's getting cringy. Going through all of this stuff kind of gives you goosebumps. It's so, but I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad that we're going to be going through this, and hopefully no more references to food when we're talking about data and analytics and science and a mysterious pizza that did it go out? Did it come back in? Leaving a lot to the imagination there.
Now, this is making me hungry, and I don't know whether I'm hungry for a pizza, a chicken sandwich, or a burger. I guess I'll just go to the grocery store.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.
We've got a chicken sandwich, a burger, and a pizza.